Yes, hello everyone. I'm Jeffrey. How are you today? Good. Well, very, I feel a lot of energy and passion here today. It's my first day actually. I've been in Poland less than 24 hours now. I just arrived yesterday, and I feel really great. It was a beautiful city from the above, from the plane, and I felt really great about it. And then, yes, I chat a little bit about venture capitalists and then regulations yesterday with government agencies here in Poland, and then I feel that startup entrepreneurship is really booming up here in Poland and Warsaw, and then I'm really glad about it. So this is great picture of Seoul. What do we know about Korea? I think probably the most recent one we heard about Korea is probably AlphaGo event. The DeepMind team from the Google came to Seoul and then played Go against Lee Sedol, who is the world champion of Go play. Anyone play Go here? Wow, many here, because actually it's a very ancient Chinese game, but I don't really play. I don't know how to play Go, but so I didn't understand what the commentator is talking about. But yes, so people talked about if this is like a man versus machine game, or some news journalist said that it is a British genius versus Korean champion. So they really brought up patriotism in that game. So it was great to see the amazing, beautiful game last year against man and the machine. So that happened in Korea actually last week. It was an amazing week in Korea last week. All right. So before we dive into venture capital and then startup ecosystem in Korea, I just want to give a brief fun facts about Korea to you, because in Korea, we are very connected to many Asian countries like China and Japan, and then Southeast Asia countries, and then US too. But I don't see many connections between Korea and Poland yet. So I just want to give a brief update about Korea. So it's about, it's smaller than Poland. It's just 1/3 of the Poland. But what's amazing is that we live about, there are about 50 million population, but half of them are actually living in very small Seoul metro area. So 10 million population in Seoul, and then another 15 million population around Seoul metro area. So it's very dense area. And then GDP is about less than 30K US dollars last year. All right, so probably when I ask people what comes in their mind first, when they think of Korea, is that probably Korea War. So we after Korean War in 1950s, we had nothing on the ground. So everything was gone, and then Korea was actually one of the poorest country in the world in 1950s. So from ground zero, so we from the scratch, a handful of great visionary entrepreneurs, they started building business from the scratch. So they started building ships in 1960s and 70s from the from nothing actually, and then they sold those ships to Middle East countries and then some European countries, and then we export labors. A lot of miners, the labors in mining field, we export those human resources to other countries to earn dollars and then to make money, and then they send those money to back to Korea. So that's how we started rolling our economy in 1960s and 70s. So probably, but when it comes to young people nowadays, when they think of Korea, probably the Gangnam Style is the most popular one. So we export lots of, not only Gangnam Style, but we export a lot of K-pops and TV shows and the cultural things to other Asia countries, and then probably US and European countries too. So K-pop and online gaming, probably some of you have played a few Korean online games, and then maybe mobile games. Telecom, automotive, shipbuilding, semiconductor, those are very traditional industries that we are very strong in. All right, so another thing fun is that mobile. Korea is really a mobile nation. So more than 87%, maybe 90% now are connected to LTE, and then more than 80% are Android phones, because it's the market for the mobile app developers, iOS and the Android, the fragmentation market is really problematic because it causes headache for the developers and then marketers. But in Korea, we are very the identical. Most of people use Android phones, so we don't have to, developers don't have to really worry about the iOS in the market. So it's a great test market. And then Korea mobile app stores are the third largest market in the world, so after US and Japan. So we have a pretty big market, mobile app market in Korea. So like in Korea, more people watch YouTube on their mobile than their desktop, and that happened 4 years ago actually. And the same thing happened in US just last year. So Korea is, compared to US and Korea is like about 3 or 4 years ahead of mobile market in US. So if you want to see the future of a mobile market, you just have to come to Seoul and then see what people are doing, because that's going to happen in the rest of cities in 3 or 4 years later. So that's a brief of Korea. I just want, because today is like fundraising day, so I want to give a brief of how venture capital investments are doing in Korea, and then how startups are making exits and then make successes there. So a few numbers that we look at. The last year alone, the VCs in Korea invested more than $2 billion. That's only for the from the report from the registered VCs in Korea. There are about like extra more $1 or $2 billion, about $2 billion, not reported in this report. So we can think about it's about more than $3 billion and $4 billion venture investment market in Korea. Whereas about like $10 billion venture investment in whole Asia. So that's the number. So actually, the venture investment amount in Korea is bigger than the one in Japan. So startups and venture capitals in Korea is bigger than Japanese. And then we have in Seoul metro area, we have several co-working spaces, including Campus Seoul. We have a Campus Seoul in Seoul too, and then a few other co-working spaces. And then government itself, they created their own co-working spaces in 17 different cities too. So spaces, plenty of spaces for startups. And then we have a few accelerators, and then angel investors, micro VCs to growth and later stage investors. Very deep, thick ecosystem there. And I think I heard in Poland we have a startup plan that the new government really pushing for it. We had this very similar government policy, the promotional initiatives too, which is called creative economy in Korea from the current President Park's administration. So it's been about 4 years now, and then the numbers look great, and then we are very upward growing now, very fast. All right. So this is what I was talking about. We are growing fast, but for the past 5 or 6 years, the amount of venture investments doubled up already. So just 5 years ago, it was less than $1 billion investment a year. But last year, we have invested more than $2 billion in Korea to about 1,000 startups in Korea. So some key investments made by foreign investors in Korea. We have about more than 120 domestic venture capitals. But besides the domestic venture capitals, we have a good number of foreign investors investing in Korea too. So these are examples of what foreign investors are investing in what Korean startups. The first one, like Goldman Sachs invested one of the food delivery startup in Korea called Ua Brothers. And then Formation 8 from Silicon Valley, they have invested like Yellow Mobile, which is equivalent to Rocket Internet in Europe. So they are modeled exactly after Rocket Internet, and they are pursuing for IPO in Korea too, and NASDAQ. And then Tencent Line, a Chinese and Korean Japanese company too. They have invested in a gaming platform called 433. And then SoftBank, Japanese company, invested more than $1 billion to Coupang, which is e-commerce platform, the largest e-commerce platform in Korea. So I think this depicts a great example of what the vertical industries that are popular in Korea, like food delivery and then rocket internet model, gaming, e-commerce. So those are very popular and then fastest growing vertical industries in Korea. So that's a brief of the landscape of venture investments. And then I want to talk about exits. So exit is a little bit, the reason why I'm talking about exit is that in order to promote venture investments and then startup growth, you can do from the bottom to up, but we also have to think of the top market, like public markets, and then bigger markets like private equities and the public markets too. Because without them, startups cannot make exits, startups cannot make success. Fundraising could be a problem. So we need to really look at the top above markets here. So in Korea, this is a problem. In US, more than 80% of exits are through M&As, and then about 20% are IPOs. In Korea, it's opposite way. So there are less than 2% of M&As in Korea, and then about 25% of IPO in Korea. The rest are ambiguous. It's, they through redemptions and then some other forms. This is from the perspective of investors. So that's something. So the key thing here is that in Korea we do not have M&As. So which is very unlucky for startups in Korea. They have to really push really hard to be acquired. But there are a few notable M&As still. Kakao itself, they are startups. They grew to $10 billion now in Korea. So they have acquired Melon, which is iTunes in Korea, local domestic music distribution platform of Korea, at about like $1.5 billion. Kimgisa is a navigation app, what's called the navigation app from Israel? Waze, yes. So it's the Korean version of Waze. So they got bought by Kakao too. And Timon is another big e-commerce platform, and Fiberrocks is data analytics platform acquired by American company called Tapjoy. And then Viki got acquired by Rakuten, which is a Japanese company. So if you look at the acquirers in Korea, Korean companies rarely acquire startups. Or the other, like from the third one to fifth one, those are like the American PEs and the American companies or Japanese companies who buys Korean startups. So that's M&A. So there are not many things to talk about M&As in Korea because there are many just. So talking about IPOs, there are about 1,152 Kosdaq listed companies. Kosdaq is equivalent of NASDAQ in Korea, which is about $200 billion market cap in total. And if you look at the number, so last year we had a historic highest number of new IPOs with 62 IPOs. Normally, before we had about less than 50 or 40 IPOs every year, which is not that great. And combined altogether, those 62 IPOs, they added $7 billion value to the Kosdaq market. So last year was really good, very historic high. So for the past 5 years, we have grown a lot in Kosdaq market. And then these are a few examples of notable IPOs. So again, so all of these, interestingly, are gaming companies. Like W Games, they provide casino games to Western markets, and they have IPO'd in Korea with a $1 billion valuation. Party Games, Kakao is another gaming distribution company with a messenger app. So they have a Kakao Messenger, which is like more than 90% of market share in Korea, which is like WhatsApp here in Europe. Very popular messenger. They do gaming distribution through their messenger. So, yep. And the other tools are the gaming companies. All right. So unicorns who made $1 billion valuation IPOs. So we rarely see those unicorn $1 billion IPOs in Korea. That happened 2 companies last year. One is Carogen, which is a biotech company, and then W Games, again, I told earlier. And then Golf Zone, which is a VR gaming company, in 2011, they created a virtual reality software to simulate, how to play golf. So, and then they went to a $1 billion IPO 5 years ago. One of the problem of IPO market in Korea is that the median value of IPO is not that great. It's about $50 million valuation for all other 60 new IPO companies. So if you make medical success and then go to IPO, you make $50 million valuation. So that's it. The other problem of Korean IPO is that it takes too long. So from start to go to public, it takes 12 years in Korea, whereas in US it takes only like 7 years or less. And then Israel and then other countries about same, like 5 to 6 years. But in Korea, you have to work for 12 years to go to IPO. So that's one of the problem. And then there are, a little bit more than 1% of companies are only like, $1 billion valuation among all the other stock companies, so which is not that great. So all others, if there are only like 1% of unicorns, the others are very small caps. So that's a problem. One more thing is that, interesting is that, so Korea GDP, US GDP is 12x bigger than Korea's GDP. But if you look at the markets, the Nasdaq is more than 40 times bigger than Kosdaq market, so which is a problem. So I think in order to grow startup ecosystem in Korea in the future, I think we need to grow more public markets first, so that they can be valued higher valuation. So yeah, that's all for today for now. So Seoul became really a tech hub of all Asia countries. There are like other cities like Singapore and Japan, and then Beijing and Shanghai in China. But Seoul clearly really outstands as a tech hub in Asia. So yeah, I hope we have more connections between Poland and Korea. So all right.
All right. We have space for 2 questions.